We are on the Zion and Alf. And we're Zion, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I didn't go for 2 days.
Yeah, we weren't there yesterday. We're talking about the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that you see a woman talking with another man, and that was euphemism for having relations. So Gamliel Rabbi Lezer says she's believed. She has credibility to tell us who she had relations with. Rabbi Shua says she has no credibility. We don't believe her what she says. We assume that the person she had relations with is somebody who's puzzle, and therefore she can't marry a Kohen because she herself becomes puzzle as a result. So it says more in the second line on Zion and Ralph. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Achim Shem Rabbi Yoshi said, I look at Rabbi Lezer, who said that we believe her. Because they're 2 against 1. They're 2, and Rabbi Yeshua is only one person. Rabbi Yossi asked, Ima halacha, if you're going to say halacha, say halacha. Lama shnayim, why even say it's 2 against 1? If shnayim, if you want to say it's 2 against 1, and it's not really the halacha, if not for the rov, then lama halacha, so why'd you say halacha? Just say it's 2 against 1. There was this two-part statement. Halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Lezer, and then the rationale, because it's 2 against 1, seems to be one of them seems to be superfluous. Either say it's 2 against 1, or say Halacha Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Lezer. I guess the Gemara did not accept that would be the cause for the halacha, because it never says anywhere in Shas halacha like so and so because he's rov. If we say halacha is like so and so, generally it's because of some underlying reason. So here there must be an underlying reason too. Why do you have to bring in the reason of 2 against 1? So it says the Gemara, no. Me'ata, I'll tell you why. Because in Yisbo Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua, if Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who speaks later on about the Rabbi Yochanan appears in one of the later Mishnayos in discussing these issues, if Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would be persuaded to hold like Rabbi Yeshua, then indeed, so it would be 2 against 2, and then Elach Gamliel Rabbi Lezer, Elach Rabbi Yeshua, Halacha would change the other side. In fact, it is completely an issue of rov. Just normally rov means we have a gazillion rabbanon against one rabbi, but here it's taka 2 against 1, and therefore if you just got one guy to go to the side of Rabbi Yeshua, one Tana, so then we had paskin like Rabbi Yeshua and like whatever Tana X who was with him, as opposed to Gamliel Rabbi Lezer.
So when we say Yochad Rabim, Halacha Rabim, we're talking about gazillion.
Generally speaking, but it's even by 2 against 1 though.
So then it's not a chiddush. I mean,
right, but the thing is that's what we want to stress that here it's precisely 2 against 1. Oh. If you have one more Tana holds like Rabbi Yeshua, you can turn the tide the other way, okay, or at least make it a suffix. It says Gemara, Maikadun. What's the result of this conversation? Why do we believe her? Mishum Eidushisha Kasherullah. Because it's a testimony in which women are acceptable. Why? Because women are believed to say who they had relations with. So they wanted to say that Mapli and Rabbi Yeshua, Vilna Rabbanim, where Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer argue, but Malcolm Shob if the majority of people are puzzled in that locality. But if the majority of people in that locality are kosher people, then she's got a rov on her side. After Rabbi Yeshua, and even Rabbi Yeshua would concede the point. As Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lo B'Shem Rabbi Lezer, they both said, I feel b'makom she'rov ksherin and he machlokas. Even places when the majority of people in the city are kosher and won't cause her any grief in terms of her halachic status, nevertheless we have the same machlokas. Why is that? Good question. So Rabbi Yeshua, because Rabbi Yeshua holds, has nus rotza achar psulim. People who are involved in licentious behavior, they usually are connected to people of shady character and background. And therefore, if she was mizana, and obviously she had relations out of wedlock, so therefore we assume she had relations with somebody who was a apostle. So by definition we say, according to Rabbi Yeshua, even if she claims she was nivelos to a kosher person, we cannot give her credibility because even if there's a rov, that's what I meant to say, even if there's a rov of kosher people around, we do not give her credibility because there's nus makes her, we say that since she had illicit relations, so it's primarily logical that she would have it with apostle people. Now, our Rabbi 00 said, Masnisa, the Mishnah, or the following Mishnah argues, or Bryce argues, and in fact, we're going like Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer. With that, what is that from Bryce? So it says that, it says, it says, even kosher people are mizaneh. How is it so? The time we learned, even the most pious person, you never make him the guardian that two people shouldn't be over on Gili Arayas, because even a kosher kind of guy, now here we mean kosher, not Yerushalmi, but we mean, in our story, we're not even talking about Yerushalmi, it's talking about a kosher person that he has relations with a woman, he doesn't make her puzzle or kahuna. But here in this price it goes even further. It says, forget about him. Obviously, a kosher person is not a pious person. He can be mizana left and right. But here it says, even a chassid shebechasidin, even the most pious of the pious people, you don't make him the guardian rights because it's a very big temptation. And therefore, if the Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Lezer said would not hold that there's a majority possibility that she had relations with somebody who's possible to her because the ksherim they fool around as well. Okay, halacha test. Now we go from her to her kid. Haisamu Beres. What if she was pregnant?
But we end up that Beres means nivela still.
Oh, most definitely, right. Everybody agrees on that. Haisamu Beres. What if she was pregnant? Amrullah, and they said to her, Mativo Shibuza, what's the status of this fetus? And she says, Meish Ploni, it's the progeny of so and so, the Kohen, and he's a Kohen, so my kid's a Kohen too. And Gamliel say she's believed. There be sure we do not accept what she says. You assume that the person who impregnated her was a person who's a nasin, means he can't come enter the congregation of Hashem because he's from the tribe of from the nation of Givon, or Mamzer, a person who himself was possible to call, until she brings proof that she's telling the truth. Rabbi Lezer said, everybody agrees that even though if she's believed that the kid she's believed to say who the kid's father is, so it's just the credibility to make him a shtuki, that we don't know his father is, and we don't assume that his father was a mamzer or a nasim, but not further than that. V'tani, can we learn where's it true that we believe her be'edus isha gufa when she talks about herself? But the kid, and everybody agrees that he's literally silenced, meaning we don't know who the father is. Says Rabbi Yochanan said, shtuki stam. There's a generic shtuki. There are a few words missing here, but it's not clear exactly how to put them in. But a generic shtuki, somebody who's silenced because he doesn't know who his father is, basically what we bar him from doing is inheriting his father's property. Because since he's a shtuki, we don't know if he is related to his father. We don't know who his father is, right? Because there's a question, because he can't say, nobody's saying who his father is. So it says the Gemara, nevertheless, Matzino Shu Shtuki Kohen Gadol. We find that a Shtuki can become a Kohen Gadol, which obviously is very high madrega. Hey Chabida, how is that so? Siyah Shel Kohanim Overes. Fundamental concept. A group of Kohanim are passing where this woman is. And one of them, Upirish Echameh Mubal, one of them comes out of the group, has relations to her, joins the group again, right? So in that case, you know for sure that the Shtuki is a Kohen. He can even be a Kohen Gadol. He can't inherit the property of anybody because we don't know who the father is, but we know the father is a Kohen. So the bottom line is that we know Shtuki doesn't necessarily mean that the kid is automatically precluded from all rights and privileges. It depends who the logical assumption is that this person was his sire, or the person who.
So a Kohen child that's born out of wedlock is
a kosher, legitimate Kohen. Totally kosher, totally legitimate. Okay? Says Gemara, Amar Rabbi Lezer said, Harei Amonas Isa. Wait a minute, how can you say that? I have a case, a woman who's an Amonas Isa, literally means the widow of dough. In other words, there's a family in which it's questionable, the lineage is questionable. dough has all sorts of ingredients in it. So this family has all sorts of ingredients in it. So we learned Hikshera. She's okay. She has the cheskas kashrus. Ubita, but her daughter is psula because we don't know what the story with her daughter is. So it doesn't have cheskas kashrus, and she's not believed as her daughter. So her daughter is puzzle.
Puzzle for it's not marrying a Cohen.
Married Cohen. That's what it seems at this point. So so we see that we can divide up, right? We can see that we can say that he is the daughter is.
So we're talking about the Amana.
The Amana is kosher and the daughter is basel, right? Okay. So here too in our Mishnah we should say the same thing. We believe her on herself, but we don't believe her on the kid. Why do Gamliel or Rav Eliezer say we believe her on the kid as well? Okay. So it says more Amalei. So he said to respond, whoever holds that the woman who's the widow of the Doe family, right? So anybody says she's okay, says the daughter is okay because it's an extrapolation from her. Amar Yaakov said, Lo Amar. He only said, and here the Gerson side changes it from Kidivrei to El Kidivrei. He only said this Mishu Machshir, that he who's Machshir, the mother, is Machshir, the daughter. Now it sounds like there's a machlokas meat that's like saying Man da Amar, who said blank is blank. Miklau the is Charon. Must be there's another opinion in this matter which holds posel, that if the mother might be kosher and the daughter puzzle. Mani Machshir, whose word is Machshir? Rabbi Meir. He says if the mother is kosher, the kid is kosher. You can't separate the chazakas between the two, right? Mani Paisa, who says you can separate the chazaka of the mother from the daughter. Rabbana, that's Rabbana. The time we learned Ezu Isa Keshera. What's a mix which is pure? Meaning that everybody in the mix can get married to a Kohen. Kosher ain't ba, anytime there's no issue of, now all the unfortunate will take out the word cholo. And you just have, anytime there's no issue of mamzer, lo nasin, not a mamzer, nor a nasin, which are two forbidden relationships in Am Yisrael, and not, it doesn't say this here, but it says in the Bryce according to Adam, what you bring down, lo avnei malachim, not the slaves of the kings, because the slaves of the kings, seems kings of the house of Hashmonai, were intermarried, so therefore that was a problem. They couldn't do, you couldn't know if they were kosher or not kosher. But if you had a family which had none of these deficits, so you assumed it's kosher, right? So it says the Gemara again, Esu Yisuk Sher kosher ein bo lo mamzer, lo nosin, and not avdei melachim. Remer, even though some of those words says something, it doesn't say, but that's the way to read it. Remer kosher ein ba achas mikol elu. Anybody who doesn't have one of these traits, meaning not a mamzer, nor nosin, nor avdei kohanim, kesher l'kuna, we allow her to marry a kohen, even though there's a small possibility that her father was a cholo, or there was some chol relationship. We don't assume there's a chol relationship which defiled the kuna directly, unless proven to us, right? And therefore the daughter is kosher l'kuna.
You said you're Avnei Malachim.
Did I say Avnei Kohanim? Should be Avnei Malachim. I meant to say Avnei Malachim, but I said Avnei Kohanim. Aval, mishpacha shishtakeh bo psul. Now, what about a family where you know there's a psul? You know there's somebody puzzle, but you don't know who it was. Rumor has it that there was somebody puzzle. So how do you have to check it out? Most you go back 4 of my mothers, umesi, and they're married. In other words, when you go make a b'tika, you have to check back 4 mothers. Chachar mean bodek lolim, you have to check as far back as you have records for, and then you can give up. Rabbi Yerushalmi Rabbi Zir lo amar kei. Rabbi Zir, the user name Rabbi Yirmiyah did not say that Rabbi Elazar argued on Rabbi Yochanan, but he asked Rabbi Yochanan the following question. What's the question? El Rabbi Elazar shal Rabbi Yochanan. Almanas Isa Mai, what's the status of a woman who's an almana? Almanas Isa, know what she has also to brought mixed into her family. Mai, what's her status? Amar Lei Kshera, so he said that she's a kosher. Bita Ma'i, what's the status of her daughter? Whereas machshir by her, machshir by her daughter as well. There's a fundamental principle. The chazakas which apply to a mother can apply to a daughter because the daughter is a continuation of the mother. So the mother has certain chazakas which have to do with her. So these chazakas occasionally, not always though, can be transferred to the child. Now here it's the case, right? We're here because the child was conceived as a result of this episode, so therefore you can transfer whatever chazaka was applied to the mother to the child. If the child needed a chazaka 10 years later, which is not a continuous chazaka with the mother's chazaka, we couldn't do that. I'm not sure I'm making myself clear, but the reason why you give the daughter the chazaka of the mother, just like the mother mistama only had relations with somebody who's kosher to her, so the daughter was conceived only in relations which were okay for her, it's precisely because one led to the other. The relations led to the conception of the child. Whereas there are two separate things, just one is the mother, one's the daughter, but the issue with the mother is of conception, and the issue with the daughter is the face what happened when she's 3 years old. Obviously there's no continuity, we don't say machshir ba, machshir bebito, right? That wouldn't make any sense. So in any event, we're talking about here, the chazaka continues from the mother to the daughter. Maybe check, I should check, it's kind of later than it usually gets here. Let me just check about it. Rabbi Yirmiyah B'Shem Rabbi Zira said, "Lo Markain again as Chazor El Rabbi Lezer Shol Rabbi Yasser Yochanan Moshe Samai." What's the status? Amalei said share Bita Mai. Amalei said K'div Mishum Machshir Mishum Bita. Hambon Mem. Now they wanted to say Al Daita the Rabbi Lezer Shtuki Apostle. According to Rabbi Lezer, a Shtuki is a apostle because there are no chazakas by him, right? Because Rabbi Lezer either argued out Rabbi Yochanan or posed Rabbi Yochanan a loaded question. Loaded question as to whether there is a chazaka for the daughter, for the mother that applies to the daughter. So obviously if you hold there isn't, then a shtuki is possible, right? No good, because whatever chazaka the mother has doesn't apply to the daughter. Al daita Rabbi Yochanan couldn't Rabbi Yochanan shtuki kosher. Shtuki is kosher because whatever chazaka applies to the mother, which is the chetzkash kashrus, applies to the daughter conceived in this marriage, in this incident as well. Rabbi Yochanan isay shtuki apostle. Rabbi Yochanan also that a shtuki is possible. So that's a kasha actually. So how can you say shtuki is kosher? So it says more b'shitaso yeshiva. The truth is Rabbi Yochanan holds that a shtuki is possible. But he answered Rabbi Lezer l'shitaso that you hold b'shitaso yeshiva. Well, I want to explain it. B'shitascha sha'at oimer av shtuki stam. That you say shtuki is even somebody as anybody. We don't know the father. I'll tell you that you're wrong. Let's see the shtuki kohen gadol. We found shtuki kohen gadol. How's that? Echavida, siyah shel kohanim overes. A group of kohanim passes by. Upei shel chamem ubal. And one of them has relations with this girl. Shtuki kohen gadol. We found the shtuki who is a kohen gadol. Why? Because in that case, since he's definitely a kohen, so therefore he can become a kohen gadol. But in any event, the bottom line is that he was trying to say that Rabbi Yochanan was trying to say that not all shtukis are possible, right? Some shtukis are kosher, need to be a kohen gadol. That was the whole point he was trying to make. He might hold that normally a kid who's found, we don't know who the father is a shtuki, but there's some cases where it isn't a shtuki.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Why was the Gemara repeating itself? Didn't we have the same concept?
There we had the discussion. Here we're having a retrospective on the discussion. We're saying that when Rabbi Yochanan had the discussion, we repeat the whole discussion verbatim. We're saying when Rabbi Yochanan had the discussion, you should not infer that to mean that he always holds that whatever chazak applies to the mother applies to the daughter. Okay? That's what he's saying. He says the shtuki is possible, right? But he just said he wanted to say, but not all shtukis are possible. He wanted to distinguish between certain type of shtuki which are and certain type of shtuki which are not. Okay? A shtuki again is somebody who doesn't know who his father is. He's silent when you ask him who his father is, right? But that depends, of course, if you know that the father is from a limited subset of people, So then, of course, it's not going to render as difficult as if the father could be somebody of an endless chain of human, of human possibilities of somebody. What? Encounters, right. Okay. Says the Gemara, Milsa Rabbi Zira Omar Shtuki Kosher. Rabbi Zira sounds like he holds a Shtuki is okay as well. Rabbi Zira Boykun Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Zira that's part of Rabbi Yossi. This is the proof. Avlim Mishpacha Kain. In terms of family as well, if a Shtuki comes to marry a woman, he is believed to say, no, the other way. If a person who's kosher comes to marry a woman who's a shtuki, she's believed to say she's ksher lakuna. She has credibility on that. Says the Gemara, Kain Amar, Amar Lei said, Amar Shem Lakish, Tamatni Liyam Mishpacha. There it says, vis-a-vis family. But here, Le'inyan Kachak Vu. We're talking about kachim eaten outside the Beis HaMikdash. I forgot what that means. 1 second. It's always in my mind. 1 second. Yeah, okay. Say what Rabbi Zira. Remember the shot. 1 second. No. We have plenty of the blank space on tape. But it happens all the time that I fall asleep when I'm saying shit. That's even worse because usually it comes out utter gibberish. So in any event, then be the breaks. Says the one first, so it's a little silence never hurt anybody, right? So in any event, says the one first. Yeah, Shtuki, right? Says I lost my place. Mr. Rabbi Zera my Shtuki kosher. Rabbi Zira boy, so he says Shtuki is a kosher, obviously, because he was at it's not our point right now. Rabbi Zira boy, but now actually, that is our point. The Gemara is going to bring a proof the old Shtuki is kosher from the following story. Rabbi Zira, who is Rabbi Zira, Balkun Rabbi Yossi, asked for Rabbi Yossi, Abni and Mishpacha Kei. What do we say in terms of family? In other words, the call guy Shtuki, do we say Shtuki that his family connections are held to be adverse or questionable? Or do we say that has nothing to do with his family connection? He can marry a Kohen, he can marry anybody he wants, or she can marry an Israeli, no problem. The only problem is in terms of things like Kochei HaGvul, meaning that can they take part in, if the woman says that he was a Kohen, so then can he go and eat stuff, Trumas, Meiser, stuff like that. So it says, the words Rabbi Shmuel B'Yitzchak say Shtuki is actually just a straight kosher, not fossil. House Rabbi Hauso, Rabbi Shmuel Yitzchak said, Abba Me'ata, Ein Shtuki Kan Gamliel Rabbi Lezer. Koran Gamliel Rabbi Lezer should be no such thing as Shtuki. Why Koran Gamliel Rabbi Lezer should be no such thing as Shtuki? Because we always believe what she has to say, right? El Rabbi Shua should only be a Shtuki like Rabbi Shua, where we don't believe what she has to say. Because the Rabbi Omar, when Agnes said, Yesh Shtuki Gamliel is also Shtuki like Gamliel, Uk Rabbi Lezer, when that Bishop Tsekes, when she's silent. People tell me that when she's talking, no matter any odas, and she says, I don't know. It's the same thing as being silent. So in that case, there actually is Shtuki where she's silent or says, I don't know. Otherwise, there is no Shtuki according to Gamliel Rebbe Lezer. It's taka true. Because normally she'll have a response, and Mishraik's response, we believe her response. So Shtuki is actually a very rare incident. Okay?
You're saying there's a typo here? That Shtuki Pasu?
Yeah, it should be Shtuki kosher. That's a good enough rhyme. He says Shtuki is kosher, right? Because he says that he asked that Shtuki should be kosher because once he speaks, no, you're right. I'm not even sure it's necessary to make that tikkun right now. Once you point that out.
I mean, I just don't see the side, any of them on the side making that.
Yeah, no, but no, it's not on top. It's Gilin Ephraim. Gilin Ephraim's on the bottom. No, it's in the back on this page. It's already in the bottom too. It's in the back. But name it. I think what it means like this. It must be a Rishmor Yitzchak calls the shtuki is kosher, right? Because it says like Gamliel Rabbi Lezer, right? So he holds there is a shtuki. So how does he hold that there is Where are you? That's a problem.
No, it says kosher. Is that right?
No, it's supposed to say apostle. Fourth line before the Mishnah.
4 lines before.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, it's true to the Gilin Ephraim says it's supposed to say kosher because Rishmor Yitzchak asked that there should be no shtuki. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, only Rabbi Yoshua. And we know he paskin like Rabbi Gamliel, right? So therefore it must be that there's no shtuki according to Rabbi Gamliel, that he holds no shtuki. That's the premise of his question. And he's asking on Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lezer, must be that he holds that there's no, that a shtuki is kosher. Not that there's no shtuki, but a shtuki is kosher love of the call.
You remember who Rabbi Shmuel?
Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak.
And I mean, I just see it in the Pnei Moshe when he says, Milson Rabbi Shmuel, Spir Leidi Shtuki, Pasul Afil Liyuchsein.
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of the Gilin Ephraim.
Oh, okay.
The Gilin Ephraim says you should change it to kosher because obviously he's saying, when he asked the query, Chonah Gamliel Rabbi Lezer, you guys don't have shtuki, it must mean that he's trying to say that there's shtuki, that shtuki is kosher, right? Because that's his proof. Because the Gamliel Rabbi Lezer hold there's no such thing as shtuki.
We have a lot in Yerushalmi with
The kosher means apostle means kosher. Okay, next Mishnah. Rabbi Yosef said, Maisa betinokas, the Maisa was a girl, she in the house, Maimin she went down to fill up water from the spring, Benanza, and she was raped. Rabbi Yochanan said, if the majority of the city could marry Kohanim, then she could still marry a Kohen, even though she was raped, because we assume she was raped by somebody who's kosher to marry a Kohen. Okay? Remember, we said Ksherim do znus too. All right, Rabbi Yerushalmi. Now here, it's a very difficult sugya. The rest of the parak, which will take us to the rest of the evening, is a difficult sugya, and I will learn it like the Gilin Ephraim, because I saw everybody else, and I didn't like anybody else, and they're all docha. Korban Eda, Pnei Moshe, Mashbiach, Sharet Yitzro, Mechamai, Rikbaz, you name it, they're all difficult. Gilin Ephraim is the least difficult.
Just real quick, so the only problem with the Kohen marrying someone who was Nanas is because it wasn't done by a Kohen?
Oh no, it was done by somebody's Pasul Kuna. Pasul Kuna. Somebody's not called, somebody who's Pasul Kuna, such as a Goy, or an Eved, or Mamzer, nothing.
So
okay.
it's like the principle of call to parish to do.
Don't give it away. Oh. Yes. But an interesting thing, once you bring that up.
You want to edit that out?
No. Interesting, once you bring that up, is we'll get there. The Mashbiach says you don't find in the Yerushalmi explicit, and he does give an answer. He just wonders why. You don't find in the Yerushalmi ever explicit the words. Well, he does give an answer, but it doesn't really. It's not really an answer. I'll tell you what he says. He says you don't find ever the words in the Yerushalmi kavua, which is called kavua kamechza mechzadami. We'll explain that in a few minutes too. Nor do you find in the Yerushalmi the word brera for yesh brera and ain brera. We've had concepts which parallel brera, not brera, but you don't find the word ever. So that's what he postulates that that's a proof that the Yerushalmi was predated the Bavli. That, excuse me, they didn't yet have the words formulated for these concepts, so that's why they don't appear in the Yerushalmi. It's interesting spoiler. Okay, so that will come up now. Rabbi Yerushalmi Rab said, and now here it says the word Kohen, but that's a mistake. Well, Gilin Ephraim Mashbiach say it should be the Hun. In this place or in that place, like Bahan Kana Shel Tzipori Havulta. This took place in the caravans outside Tzipori. Now there are a number of interpretations of Krona, and the other main interpretation is that it was not the caravans, which are like the carriages, but rather it happened in the in the by the well springs of Tzipori, which are outside the city. That's crucial. Now, nevertheless, despite the fact it happened in the well springs of Tzipori or in the caravans of Tzipori, nevertheless, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said she's okay. Now, this is a fundamental contradistinction to the Bavli, because the Bavli says you need to have 2 robes. In every matter of Yerushalmi, you have to have a trey ruby in order to allow her to call. 2 robes. And here we only have 1 robe. What's the 1 robe we have? The robe people in the city are Jewish, right? Oh, that's one difference between this and the Bavli. Another difference between this and the Bavli is that's actually one difference of trey ruby. The other difference is that the Bavli does give this trey ruby. The Bavli says there is 2 robes here, because there's the robe of the people of the city, and the Bavli says that the robe of the people traveling in the caravans were not gypsies but Jews. So therefore you need 2 robes, and you had both robes, you had both majorities. Yerushalmi is just addressing 1 robe, the robe of the people of the city, and not the robe of the caravans. So that'll be an interesting issue to take up in a minute. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Chama, Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Chama, Tarvein Omein, they both said, Rabbi Shem Rabbi Chananya, Name Rabbi Chai, Shem Rabbi Yan, Name Rabbi Yanai, Mole Rabbi Shuban Anesis. Rabbi Yeshua, who was machmir on the woman and said, we don't believe a word she says, that's only if she was willful. She involved herself willfully, so we don't believe her. But even Rabbi Yeshua agrees that we believe her where she was compelled to do whatever she did. Okay, so let's say, in case, where she was, raped, right? So she was compelled. So we just assume if the robe of the people around there are kosher people, that she was raped by a kosher person. Okay, so that's the bottom line. Again, right, he says, Rabbi Yana says, Mod Rabbi Shua concedes about Nusa if she was compelled, that she's off the hook. Rabbi Chizkir and Rabbi Avo Rabbi Yochanan said, Mod Rabbi Shua Nusa. If she was compelled, she's off the hook. Meaning we rely on Rove and not on her statement, and that's enough. We rely on the majority. Okay? And that's good. The truth is, it's better than relying on her statement, because her statement she can twist and turn. But Rove is an absolute tool that the Torah gave us to determine what to do in situations, right? Says More Rav Chia Barashi, Amar Rav, Sanei Rav Loch Rabbi Yossi, Oz Rabbi Yossi Shem B'Shem, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So Yossi named Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, which is how did Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri say? I don't think we had it yet.
In the Mishnah, we did.
Oh, we did. Right. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, in the majority of the city marries Kuna, so therefore she can marry Kuna as well. So he says that we pass like Rabbi Yossi named Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Zira boy kum Rabbi Yasser. Rabbi Zira asked Rabbi Yasser, Heich abdin uta, what should we do with Lachamaisa? I'm like Rabbi Yossi, so he said, like Rabbi Yossi, Shar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, name Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, which is that, if the majority of the city is kosher, then we better get married to a Jew. Okay? So far so good, or we assume that everything is Jewish now to marry a Kohen, not just a Jew.
What if she willfully engaged in with and Rova ear our kashera? So what is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri saying about that?
Well, you didn't differentiate.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Right. There's no difference. Okay? It says more further. Rabbi Ela, Rabbi Ela, B'Shem Rabbi Yanai. Now here it's where it gets a little bit complex, but it's relatively simple. B'Shem Rabbi Yanai says, Tocha b'tziporin Tocha b'tziporin ba. If one of the guys, the reason why we permit her is because we say one of the guys from inside the city came out and raped her, right? And then we have the halachic principle, as Dr. Spadel mentioned before, of kol de parish meruba parish. whenever you have somebody who comes off a group, we assume that person comes from the majority. So the majority of the city people can marry Kohanim, so therefore we assume that he came off the majority, right? So therefore we say, Tocha, Tzipori, and Tzipori had relations with her, and that's why she's off the hook. We let her go. Rava Mahavish Rav I said, that depends. Rosa Poresh Mitzipori, if we saw him walk out the door of the city, and then he went to that relations, it might be somebody else. But at that point, Chazaka, it becomes the Chazaka Sheposel. Chazaka Sheposel. Excuse me? The way the Shari Torah Sitzor reads it is Chazaka Sheposel Shesham Baal. Okay, Chazaka Sheposel Shesham Baal. And it's Chazaka that we assume that the person who had relations with her was somebody puzzle. That's a very interesting distinction which Umar is making. It's not asking the question, making a distinction. In this case, we have here two possibilities. Actually, we're going to have more, but so far, we have two possibilities. We have the possibility of Kavua and called the Parish. Kavua is where you have 9 stores. Right, let's say you had all these chairs over here were stores, and so all these stores over, and you went into one of the stores, and you bought meat. Now 9 of these stores are kosher stores. If I got to this store, to this store, to this store, to that store, to that store, it's all kosher. But this one is trade, right? I don't know which one I went into. I can't eat the meat. Why is that? Because kol kavua, every time there are fixed amount of stores, and I go to one, so it's kemechta mechta. It's a 50-50 chance. It's no better than 50-50. However, if I find a piece of meat on the floor, which came from one of the stores, and I don't know which one it came from, so then I say, called the parish, once it leaves the group, Meruah parish, it comes from the majority. Now here the Gemara is distinguishing the two statements of distinguishing. If I know somebody came out of Tzipori, and in Tzipori there are 90%, let's say there, for I would say there's 70% ksherim and 30% psulim. If I know somebody came out of Tzipori, so then I assume that this guy came out of Tzipori was kosher because it's called the parish Meruah parish. But what if I actually saw him leaving Tzipori? I actually witnessed him leaving. Then, says the Gemara, and this is the way we pass it, if I see the piece of meat leaving the store, even if I didn't take it out, so I can't say called the parish Meruah parish anymore. Because I know, I saw that the meat left the Makom HaKdus, the place where it was standing. So it's as if I went and took out the meat myself. So that's what he's saying. If, however, I saw the guy coming out of Tzipori, so then I can't allow this girl, I have to say she's also. Because then it reverts to Kavua again. So it all depends on whether I saw the issuing, the sallying forth of the individual, or I did not see him sallying it forth. Is that clear? If I saw him sally forth, it's already called the parish Kavua Kamechza Mechzadani. If I didn't see him sally forth, then I could say, called the parish Meruah parish, anything which comes out in the majority.
If you didn't see him come out, then how do you know he's from Tzipor and not from the caravan?
You're saying good. Mara's going to ask that. Okay, Mara's going to come to that later on.
I have another question. When he says Tocha Shebet Tzipor and Baal,
yeah,
it doesn't mean that he did Beula in the city itself.
It could mean that, but then
that makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes more sense grammatically, but it doesn't make sense in context. I mean, that's why the Gillian Friend doesn't learn that way. Obviously, it would be much easier to learn that, but the rest of the sugya won't make sense.
It didn't make sense.
Won't make sense.
No.
Because here it's saying it's Tochel Sheb Tzipori, Baal is...
It's not Kavua, so he's...
It's good. But that's no good. It's not good. If in the halachos of Kavua wouldn't be good. If you actually went into the butcher store, it's like going to the store. right? If the issue took place in Tzipori, it's like going to the store. Except the Gemara is immediately going to bring up now, it's going to bring it up as an issue, but not, the Gemara didn't bring it up yet. Says the Gemara, Rabbi, Platyamau, what if she was raped in the public square? And that's really the question you're asking. What happens if it was in Tzipori, but it wasn't in a house?
Yeah. Right.
It was in a public square. Is there a precious? Is there a coming out from the house to the street, so that I could say, call the Porish Meruba Porish, or not?
It's like the piece of meat that's in the inside in the
Right.
public square.
So the question is, how far out it's got to be. So it says the Gemara, Platyam out. And here, we have to change the line here, the end of the line, it should be, also of the Gillian Ephraim. Rabbi Yirmiyah Omer Kirov, and Rabbi Yossi Omer Ena Kirov. Rabbi Yirmiyah Barba says, in a platio, it's already considered to be called a Parish Real Parish. It came off the rove, and therefore it's okay. Rabbi Yossi says it's not like rove. Why is that? Because he says that's considered to be still the kavua. Chel Rabbi Yirmiyah Mirada. Rabbi Yirmiyah says already they call the parish from on a public fair is from the following Gemara. The Marachia by Rabbi Shem Rav Chisa name of Rabbi Yochanan Mavli Shakula Goyim. This is Pikuach Nefesh Halacha. You have an alley which is completely Goyim. One Jew lives there. An avalanche falls in there on Shabbos. You can remove the avalanche because the Jew is there. So do we go after Rove in that case? No. But the self-same Bryce continues and says, by a public thoroughfare, we do go after Rove. So what do we see from that? We see the Rove is very powerful, right? Right, we do use it in a public thoroughfare as well. So in any event, it must be that we say called the parish when something comes out of the store and goes into the public thoroughfare. That's a very powerful statement that it's already considered to be beyond the. As long as it didn't say come out of the store, it's already considered to be beyond kavua. It's not. You follow the majority, right? So again, in the alley you say kol kavua kamechta mechta dami. And in the platia, you go after the rove. And so wherever the rove is sitting is, that's what allows you to do what you have to do. Umau the Amar Rabbi Bar Shem Rabbi Anai. Well, before we go on actually. So here's a raya that a platia is already considered to be like the like called the parish. Right.
So you have more than just the guy from the Mabui walking in the platia.
Right. So actually. So therefore, if she was raped in a plaza, you should permit her. Because you should say, call the partial report, as long as she wasn't raped in one of the houses, right? Getting back to what we said before. Umau Dhamma Rabbiana, Bob B'Shem Rabbiana, what's that which Rabbiana, boss named Rabbiana, rose so porish, meet Tziporin. If they only saw him leaving Tziporin, Ubo, and have relations, then Chazaka, if they saw him leaving Tziporin and have relations, she's possible, chazaka should possible shashambal. It's chazaka that the person who's possible in there had beer with her. So if that's the case, how can you reconcile that with what you just said? So it says the Gemara, Al-Daited Rabbi Yirmiyah, Vein Shiro Porish Min Abati. According to Rabbi Yirmiyah, you actually have to see him leaving the houses. If you don't see him leaving the houses, then it's called Parish Meru Parish already, because the moment you get onto the plaza, it's already considered to be called the Parish. Adaita Rabbi Yossi Afilumi Platya. Even if you see them in the, even if you saw them coming out of the plaza, the public thoroughfare, it's already considered to be that they yeah, so it's kavua even from the platia, right? It's kavua from the platia already, and therefore it's not like a rove. So in a plaza, it's not going to be like a rove. Now, Haisa Tzipori Ne'ula, very interesting case. What if Tzipori was under curfew? And who got out of the curfew? Only the girl was raped and the rapist. That was the only two people who got out. So that's very on the curfew. So it says the Gemara, we assume in that case that the guy who raped her was kosher until proven otherwise. Says, well, what is going on? The Korab Yossi Omer Barov. Here we follow the road. We just said before they're coming out of a plaza, out of a public thoroughfare. Rabbi Yossi says it's kokovo kemechza mechza dami. Right? How can he say that's not kokovo just because there's a curfew in the city? Says, well, I'll tell you. Very interesting svara. A for creativity. I don't remember this at all from the Bavli. Says Gemara. Chelad Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Yossi's strength is min hadah from the following case. The Mar Rabbi Zira said, Rabbi Yossi Shem Yochanan said, you bought a container of flour to a grinder to grind. You don't know which is yours anymore. If the Amaretz is grinding the entire grinder today, choshesh. He has to be suspected. If not, he doesn't suspect it. Now, what are we talking about? I would say about he finds that he has a different barrel than he originally began with, right? So if he knew that there was a barrel of grain or whatever they packed him in, so if he knew that the stuff was switched, talking about he comes to a miller, and the miller is going to mill the grain, and he gets back different grain. So the question is if he can assume that the grain he's getting back is tahor or tameh, right? So if the amoritz is also there grinding that day in the mill house, then Cheshish got to be afraid that he got tummy stuff, or stuff which can be tummy. Milav, if not in a Cheshish, he doesn't have to be concerned. So what do we see here? We see a very interesting thing. Even though normally you have to be concerned with Tumas Tahor when you leave your stuff to accessible to Amoritz, if there's no reason to assume there wasn't Amoritz present, we don't have to be concerned with that. Okay? Do you see the parallel here? The parallel is if everybody's in the curfew, we don't assume that the problematic people got out. Okay? Kol kavul kamechta mechtadam requires that there is a definite presence of the usher component. If people are going in and out because there's no curfew, so we say that definitely puzzle people in Tzipori. I know they are, but definitely a 30% puzzle. And they're out and about in the streets in the public thoroughfares. But if you say that you're putting it under lock and key, and people are not circulating, that's entirely possible that the 30% of people are at home. Right?
Why? The curfew is equal to everybody.
Nobody's being let out.
Right.
So we only assume that the rapist and the rape victim got out.
Right. So why don't you assume that...
So that's called a parish. Even Rabbi Yossi would agree that's called a parish. Because there's never a kavua which was known to me. Kavua is only if I know it's a kavua, but if everybody's on the lock and key in the houses, and nobody can go in and out, so there's no known quantifiable prohibition. That I say kavua, that there's definitely an awesome butcher shop in town.
Okay. So like the entire city is not just a plot, is like private houses.
That's right.
Rather than a plaza.
Right. That's right.
Okay, because the curfew extends the privacy of the house to the city limits.
And we don't have a kavua then. That's correct. Okay. So it says more. Wait a minute. Mabino, the Sikh was teaching this at an Arab, the marketplace of Arab merchants. Located in Syracuse, the market of the Arab merchants. Shemistapekas Yom Echad Min Ha'Eser, but one day they were selling prohibited stuff. Nasa Yom Ulochiach L'Chol Yomim, so that day became a reusa, came a question mark for all the other days. So we see that we are afraid even if one day, I don't know how often, but if one day they're puzzle things around, so it causes ramifications later on, right? So we have to be afraid of that. What?
Those are Arabs. Talking about
Well,
Arabs.
yeah. So says the Gemara, Nisirkis Epshla Shloli, stop A. Says the Gemara, wait a minute. There, it's because it's constantly new merchandise coming in. And it's possible you're not going to have new merchandise there, so there's always new merchandise. And therefore, each day you get new merchandise, you have to be afraid that this new merchandise is tummy because of the turnover. However, the Kohen Yomi, here I say, by the millstones, you don't know how much is ever going to be grinding. Shom that day both yom, and therefore, even though it says v'choshesh, it should either be read v'choshesh, you want it to be suspicious, or it should be read like Shatter Yisrael says v'eino choshesh, you don't have to be suspicious. Well, both mean the same thing, one in positive, one in negative. So the bottom line is that if I don't know this in it's present, it's not kavua. There's no definite prohibition there. So therefore, I could say called the parish that it came from the rope. But so to here, the Kohen Yom here, I say, if all of Sipari is on the lock and key, I say, Lo Yorad HaPosel, take out the word Ella, the Apostle didn't go L'Malo Shambo Sarayim. He didn't go that day. And therefore, it should be again, Ve'eno Choshesh. So it's a very beautiful thing he actually saying. He's saying that the reason why Rabbi Yossi himself was Machmin a Platya. He held in a Platya, we still say Kokovuka Merza Merza Dami. Right? Because as long as the plaza is not outside the city, it wasn't Poresh, and therefore it's considered to be Kavua together with the smallest street where the stores are, right? But he agrees, even Rabbi Yossi agrees, that this is Rabbi Yossi. Yeah. Even Rabbi Yossi agrees that at the point where you're not sure anymore if there's some prohibited person around, there's some prohibited substance around, so then I don't say kol kavua. Okay?
Did the curfew prevent them from leaving their houses or just leaving the city limits?
It's not clear. It could just be the city limits, and that's why by the city there only were the rapist and the rape victim. Okay, it says more for it's not clear though. For Rabbi Ela, now wait a minute, I have another question. Rabbi Ela, Rabbi Yan that said name Rabbi Yanai Omer, Tocha Shit Tzipor and Baal. We certainly assume it's Sayyid Tzipor, he came to have relations with her. V'or Rabbi Baal B'Shem Rabbi Yanai, there's no same name Rabbi Yanai. Omer who says Ro so Piresh Posh B'Tzipor and Boel. If you see him coming out of Tzipor and having relations, Chazak Apostle Shasham Baal, we understand that the person who's apostle is Boel. So what's the difference? That if you don't see him coming out, then I say Mishtam was kosher. If you do see him coming out, you say Mishtam was apostle. What is the difference? Now skip the name Helchem Acharov, it's not superfluous. So it says more, I mean Kushi, I'll tell you why. A very cute distinction. Because the Kasha Medam Rabbon Short in the Rabbanim made a parallel to rodents. The title learned Shlosh Tzvar Tisha Tzvardim. You have nine rodents, which includes frogs. Sheretzecha, but the frogs are not matami in their death. Sheretzecha, there's a 10th, which is one of the insects, not the insects, one of the rodents is matami when it dies, right? So can Tisha Tzvarim Sheretzecha b'Shus HaYachid, and this is all, and all this is Rishus HaYachid in the private domain. The Nogah, you touch one of these dead rodents. We don't know which one you touched. But here's the interesting thing. This stuff rolls down to Rishus Harabim. You touch in Rishus Harabim as opposed to Rishus HaYachid v'noga. Sveiko tahar. And something can be makel. Why is that? Because it's Aloch L'Moshe Misinai. Aloch L'Moshe Misinai says by Safik Tuma, Rishus HaYachid, you have to be machmir. By Slavik Tumor Shusram, you can be Rekel. Now this is actually interesting because we learn out from Sota. And here we're learning back again from Sota. Yeah, Sota teaches us in the Suffolk you have to be machmir, right? You have question, doubt, you have to have her drink the waters, right? So in any event,
yeah, but the whole concept of Sota was B'Shus HaYachid.
That's my point. I forgot to make that point. The Sota is Rishus HaYachid, right? So that means Rishus HaRabim, there's no Sota. so that means there's no suffix too much Rabim or Mekel. Okay? So it's obviously Halacha Moshe B'Sina, but the Halacha Moshe B'Sina links it to Soito. Anyway, be that as it may. So it says the Gemara, let's say the suffix or Shus HaYochid. So then it's Tommy. The same suffix rolled in the Shus HaRabim, and you touch it there, you're Tor. Chazer Shus HaYochid, you went back to Shus HaYochid, but Nagad, there you touch it again, Spekel Tommy, then you're Tommy. Well, in Nimtza, if you find it, Hel Chacharov, you go after the majority. Amr Chisda said, gee willikers. Doesn't say that in your Gemara. It says, Amr Chisda lo matzu anshi chayil yadeim. Nobody understood what was going on. What was flying with this marshal here? Why not? Because now skip the next 5 lines, 6 lines, because 6 words, not 6 lines, because they'll repeat it again later on. The adat medamel l'shus hayochid. Instead of joining Palestine in Shus HaYochid, and this case, draw Palestine in Shus HaRabim in this case. The Tani we learned, the Shus HaRabim, Tani, Tishat Shrotim in Svardeya, Echa B'neim, 9 rodents, dead rodents, and 1 frog among them. B'Shus HaRabim, if it's in a public thoroughfare, the Nagabech, when you touch one of them, you know they're based in a dog, you don't know which one you touch. Sveiko Tahar. It's a suffix, and even though it's kavua, the suffix is torn. Pure shusayach, the self-same mixture goes to shusayachid. V'naga when you touch it, it's feiko tami. So it's a tami. Chazer shusayach, you go back to shusayach and nagabo, and you touch it over again, and so feiko tar. When you find it lying around, hel racharov. So this is very, very difficult because which one is it? I mean, Shusayach, you're machmir. Rabbi, you're mekel in the same circumstances. So how do we reconcile the two? Amr Chis said again, Lamotzu Kol Anshe Chayil Tzideyim. They didn't find a way to reconcile 2 statements of Rabbi Yossi. Now, what 2 statements are we to tell you about which you can't reconcile? Actually, 2 statements, which are that one says that let me see if I can explain this very simply. In one place, he said, go after Rov. The other place, he said, what's the determining factor? Suffix Tuma. B'Shus HaRabim. Why here, when he allowed the girl who was raped down by the caravans, why did he use the principle of rope? Why didn't he just say it was suffix to Rishus HaRabim? The caravans, the springs, whatever it was, surely that was Rishus HaRabim. He just got through saying that suffix to Rishus HaRabim you can be mekel. If you make a suffix to Rishus HaRabim, even without a rope, then why do we require the rope? Why do we get into all these problems of kavua and called the parish? Just say it's suffix to Rishus HaRabim. Now, the truth is the issue that's the question, but the truth is that there's a little bit more to this question, which is that it seems quite clear that Rishus HaRabim works even if Pirish Lefonenu. I want to take a little bit more because killing your friend does not mean a shot there is just throw one of the two. It says we said before, if you saw the guy come out of Tipori, you can't rely on Rov. Right? Because you can't rely on rope when you saw it come from the Makam HaKfiyos. That's true, but that's only true if it's a Rishus HaYochid. Because it says here, if the same mixture of 9 Sfardim and 1 Sheretz, or 9 Shratim and 1 Sfardim, goes back and forth from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabim, and Rishus HaYochid, if you touch it, you're Tomei. Rishus HaRabim, you touch it, you're Tor. Doesn't distinguish between whether you see it moving or you don't see it moving. So it sounds like even if you see it moving, you saw the bundle with the 10 dead rodents, or whatever they're called, 10 dead shrotim, moving from one place to the other place. You still are not considered to have, even though you saw it, it's still not considered to have lost its status as being suffix, even though it's lost its status of Kol Parish Meruva Parish, because you saw it taking place, it hasn't lost its status as a suffix Tumah in Rosh Hashanah. So if that's the case, why are we not mako by the Korban Shel Tzipori, even if it's a problem, because we saw the guy coming out of the city, and we can't rely on Kol Parish? Let's rely on the fact that it takes place in Rosh Hashanah. It taking place in Rosh Hashanah in and of itself gives us a reason to be mako because of suffix Tumah L'Kula.
Well, the cases are different. One is about Tuma and Tara, and the other is about...
Yeah, but that's what I said before. Bear in mind, where do we learn the principles of Tuma and Tara from? From Sota, which is our issue. So if you extrapolate one way, you have to be able to extrapolate back. So that's the Gemara's question. It's a very good question the Gemara is asking. The Gemara is asking, I see that you rely on Safek Tuma even when you see it go in and out. Even when you see it being Parish Mumakum Akfius. So if that's the case over here as well, if I see the guy coming out to be boiled, you said before, I have to render the woman, I can't rely on her. I can't say she's kosher. Why? Say she's kosher. Say that Sabik Tumor Shusarabim is Tar. So Rabbi Rabbi said, Baruch Shebachar Behem Divrei. Blessed HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the word Chachamim and the words. Krona Shel Tzipori Lav Shusarabim. Either the well springs or the caravans, whatever it is, wasn't Shusarabim. Why not? So Rabbi Yossi explains. Rabbi Yossi is the Baal HaMeimra. He's been with us this whole time discussing the issue. He says we don't follow Rov, but when I see the preachers myself. Why is it Merushusa Yochid? Became Sheshnei Mechlem Lis Yachid, because two people want to do hanky-panky. They'll find a place to be Yachid in the bathhouse there. They'll find a place to be secluded. So there it's Merushusa Yochid. It's Merushusa Yochid, so therefore can't rely on Safek Tumah Merushusa Yochid. Can't rely on Safek Tumah because it's Merushusa Yochid you have to be Machmer. You can only rely on Rov. But therefore you can't see the guy come out, because then you can't rely on Rov, because then you're saying came from Prishus, and then you don't say called the Parish Meruva Parish. Okay? That's it. Let's just finish the parak. Asuv Zakum Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi. Case came Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi. Oh, I skipped one. But they found a girl, a foundling, in the middle of the city dump. So they didn't know what to do with her. Asu the Kun Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Barmi said, Titapeli, so let her join her family, which has questionable parts about her. Because she's questionable. She has fakes about it. We don't know if she's kosher, apostle, Jewish, not Jewish. Rabbi Yirmiyah saw her Meimar, Lisa Ksher. Yirmiyah said, well, we can join her to a family which is primarily kosher, but not apostle. Because after all, in this case, Rov of the city is kosher. So she should join Esau, for a family which is questionable, but questionable inclined to kashrus. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi's, Rabbi Shmuel Yossi cholok alaviv. Rabbi Shmuel Yossi argues on his father, because Rabbi Yossi says we don't follow Rov. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi holds we can follow Rov, and therefore she joins a questionable family, a questionable inclined to kula. On Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi said no. Filu temeli subsula. It should be changed around. You can even say that Rabbi Yossi would agree that she goes to Nisa Psula. That's really the way it changed around. That here too we have to throw in with Psulim, not with Ksher. Oh, no, I see. Now I understand the Shai Torah Yisrael that I didn't understand before. No! Take out the words Am Rabbi Yossi. Those words are superfluous. Does he argue his father that he followed that his father said not to rely on Rov, but he follows the Rov? Says more, no, apil tamely subsula. Yitzhak Rabbi Yossi holds not to rely on Rov, and when he said throw into Esau, he said Isa psula. And later Rabbi Yossi cholak alaviv. Rabbi Yossi doesn't argue on his father. Why? Lama. No, it still doesn't work out. No, it does work out. Okay, it goes to Isa psula. Rabbi Yossi does not argue on his father. Why? Lama ksherim mezanim. Even if you rely on Rov, probably did make a little mistake here. A little one. I'm not sure I even made a mistake, but it's hard to say. Because I'm not sure what the interplay is. Rabbi Yossi holds you can't rely on Rov. Now it seems like the Gemara wants to say Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi holds you can rely on Rov. Yeah, well that's what he said. Rabbi Yossi said she should join a kosher family, right? That's at least that's more interpreted to begin with. And that says we can rely on Rov. Yeah, I got it now. That means you can rely on Rov Ksherim, right? Says no, maybe meant you can put him into Isa Psula, like his father Rabbi Yossi, right? Which holds that don't go after Rov. So therefore you can rely on Rov instead of being Ksherim. Because there's whatever reason they're relying on Rov, because of Kavua or some other reason, some Viktuma, I don't know, but we don't rely on Rov. So how can we throw him into Nisa Ksherim? Says the Gemara, you're right. We don't throw him into Nisa Ksherim. We throw him into an Isa Psula. And Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel Yossi doesn't argue his father. And the reason why he doesn't argue his father is not because he necessarily holds like his father. Could be holds normally we do follow a Rov. But he says, the Pasuk ends, Lama, Ksherim Mizanim, Psulim Ashlichim. But in terms of following a Rov for his nus, we assume that even the Ksherim are Mizanim. We said that earlier. So therefore there's no Rov to say that the majority is who might have had relations are Psulim. But the people who throw away kids after they're born, there are very few of those. The people who throw away kids after they're born are generally the people who are psulim and don't want to face up to raising a apostle kid. So therefore, in that case, we say that we throw her into the Isa Psula. We throw into the apostle women, the apostle group, because mistama, when she comes as a foundling, then there probably was some shady business going on with her parents. Okay.
So do we know if he follows Rov or we don't know?
We don't know if he follows Rov. Because here it could be he follows Rov, could be he doesn't follow Rov. Because even if you follow Rov like Lehechsher normally, but here since Rov, by Mashlichim, Rov Psulim Mashlichim, so therefore we have no indication either way.
In fact, it got to a point that people weren't even being mispal b'chval. They weren't being mispal to Yom The whole nusach and the zman and everything was meant to see as only something to keep the Hamon davening. To keep the Hamon, give them a derech. But basically they lived on a higher philosophical plane of tefillah. And in that plane of tefillah was the pure Dveikus. On this, the Mekubal came and said, no, puk verkeerd. The only way to be a real Dovek is only through those words, only through those times. Because it's only with the takonas of Achek Nesagdela, with the Ruach Nevuah, and with the understanding of how these words are be'emes merubis to the spheros and merubis to the kavana. So Yodas, it's only through kavana, through these words, that a person is able to be poil anything. It can't come through his own philosophical contemplation or dveikus of Hashem. There's only one derech. The derech is something which is based from Kabbalah, which goes back from Moshe Sinai. It's only that, and that is based specifically on these words and this nusach. And for care, the Mekubalim, although they were the most spiritual about tefillah, and they felt that Peshat tefillah you could reach Madregas of Ruach HaKodesh, it was adopted through the nusach HaKavua, adopted through the words of tefillah, adopted through prayer that had some amount of ordering. And that's the way they were masber the halacha, that a misparo tzorach lahashmiya la'oznav. If a person davens, he doesn't. There's a Mogen Avram that's mashma that when a person davens, we say that he has to mouth the words, right? But a question that's mashma from the Mogen Avram, that a person doesn't necessarily have to hear the words. In other words, like you know that you're saying them in your machshava, but nobody could hear those words coming out of your mouth. You're mouthing them, and you're thinking about them while you're mouthing them, but there is no sound specifically. The Mekubolim, and it's interesting that I found from Rabbeinu Avram ben Arambam, he explains why, we're makbid that there has to be some call, there has to be some sort of voice that's said. There has to be something that's heard. There might be no one else in the world that can hear it, but you have to be able to hear those words, or else they're not real words. Words have to be able to come, the nefesh has to say them. There has to be the Eloh HaMaaseh. It has to be in the peh and spoken. No one else should hear it. And maybe Chas v'Sholom they should hear it during Shemoneh Esrei. But you have to be able to hear it. So the Rabbeinu Avram ben Arambam says the reason is because if you don't hear it, then you won't be mechaven properly. That if it's so low that you can't hear it, then maybe you're not even thinking the words. But the Mekubalim hold takir, because part of being a shutif of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of being a shutif with these tzenoros, is actually being medaber in the Olam HaMaaseh. And if it's, as long as it's in the Olam HaMachshav, even though it's in your brain and you're mouthing it, if it hasn't actually come out of the peh, ruach from inside has come and been the ruach b'malala, the ruach actually comes from the inside out and actually says something, then you haven't been yotzei your chiyuv tefillah.